Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to make your bowl and a wine glass. We went over this in class, but if you missed it, here it is. So I'm going to grab a half sphere from the basic shapes and put it down onto my work plane. And I'm going to resize it. When I resize, you'll see that the shape will squish and stretch. If I don't want it to do that, I can hold down the shift key and it'll happen in proportion. So here's the basic shape of my bowl, and I want to mirror it so I can flip it to be facing up. So this is the mirror key up here. You can get to it by clicking on the letter M or just clicking that tool. And when you click it, you'll see arrows appear, and when you hover over those arrows, a hint will pop up in orange and it'll show you the direction it's going to flip. So this one is correct to flip it vertically. So I've flipped my bowl. We'll zoom in for you guys to be able to see it a little bit better. So now I'm going to take my bowl and I'm going to duplicate it. This is the duplicate tool right up here, and I'm going to click the tool, and it copies and pastes into the same exact spot. So if you want to, it doesn't look like something happened, it's just sitting in the same spot as it was before. So I'm going to grab the move arrow and I'm going to move it straight up, and now you can see that it's moving up a little bit. Okay, so now I want to resize this upper bowl and shrink it down so that it leaves the skin of the bowl on the outside, and I can use it as a whole. So when I resize this, not only am I going to hold down Shift so that it happens in proportion, I'm also going to hold down Alt because that will make it shrink toward the center rather than pushing away from the corner that I'm grabbing. Okay, so now I have my, my duplicate shrunk down a little bit. I'm going to select just the duplicate, just the smaller one, and turn it into a whole. So you can have solid objects and wholes, and you can switch objects back and forth between them. When I turn something into a whole, I still need to group it with the object that I want it to cut a hole out of. So I want this upper part to cut a hole out of the bottom. So I'm going to select everything. I can either click on one, hold Shift, and click on the second one to select both, or I can just draw a box that covers both things. It doesn't have to cover the entire objects. Okay, once I've selected that, I can click on Group. And when I click off, you'll see that it's a bowl that has a hole in it. So it's just a normal bowl. Okay, we could make a foot ring later on. I'll show you guys how to do some of that sort of stuff, but that's the basic bowl. Okay, I'm gonna move this off to the side, and I'm just going to resize it a little bit in proportion so that it's not super huge. Okay, to make the wine glass, I'm going to duplicate this and start a wine glass here. I'm going to start with the same shape so that that bowl can become the cup part of the wine glass. So I'm going to use duplicate again. You can also hit Control D, and that duplicates and pastes in the same place. So I'm going to move the new copy over. And because I want this to be a wine glass, I'm going to have it be taller and thinner than it was as a bowl. And again, I'm going to just resize this a little bit so that it's not quite so huge as the bowl. Okay, so I'm going to move this off of the work plane, up off the work plane, so I have some space for my stem. Okay, now when I make the stem, I'm going to use a cylinder to make the stem. I'm not using the hole. I'm going to use a solid shape, but again, I could switch them back and forth if I needed to. Okay, so I'm going to start with a cylinder like this, and I'm going to make it, I'm holding Shift, I'm going to make it be a pretty narrow little stem, but I want to make it nice and tall. Okay. So for aligning, it would be really hard for me to move it and have it be in the perfect spot underneath, because as I rotate around, you can see that as you orbit, things aren't lining up perfectly. It's hard to line things up in 3 dimensions all at one time. So what I'm going to do instead is, let me fit this to my screen so it's easier for you guys to see. So instead of trying to align it manually, I'm going to have Tinkercad align it for me. So I'm going to grab my stem, and I'm going to Shift click on the cup of the glass, and I'm going to use my Align tool. And when I click the Align tool, nothing happens yet, but what I want to do is click on the object that I want to be my anchor point. So I want the cup of the glass to stay where it is, so I'll click that first. And now I want to align my stem under the center of the glass in this direction and also in this direction. So I click on the center points. And now my stem is aligned to the center of my glass. It's sticking out a little bit, so I can move my, my cup up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Then I want to make my base, and you could use several different objects for this, but I'm going to use a half sphere again, and I'm just going to make my half sphere be really shallow. Oh wait, I went down below the surface. There we go. Okay, you can make it be as tall as you want, but I just want it to be pretty shallow. And again, I'm going to use a line. So I'm going to align the base with the stem of the glass. So I'm holding down Shift, I'm clicking on the stem, and now I want my stem to stay still. We're going to anchor to the stem. So I'm going to click the Align tool, and then, excuse me, I'm going to click my stem first. That gives me my stem to align it to. These are going to be really small down here, so I want to click the center this way and the center this way. And that lines it to the right spot. Now if I wanted to resize it, I would hold down Alt and Shift at the same time to make sure that I'm aligning it, I'm resizing it around the center. If I group these all together now, they'll all become the same color, and there'll be one object that I can grab and move on its own. So in order to be able to screenshot it, I'm just going to select both objects that I made and click on this button called Fit View to Selected Shapes, F. So the Fit View button lets me kind of just easily see a view that allows me to see both shapes. And then screenshot that, and that's what I want you guys to turn in.